Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to preface my remarks with tribute to our late colleague, who was a dear friend of mine for years before I assumed my current position, Phil Reed, who you know devoted quite a considerable amount of energy and time to this issue. And I can just hear him from above looking down and saying in his inimitable way, "Gerson, are you crazy for getting involved in this issue?" But the point is, we need to get involved in this issue because for all the reasons you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairs, and my colleagues have stated, the current set of regulations as applied are not working. The complexity, they're not working for anybody. The complexity, the overlapping jurisdictions, different agencies, the different set of rules and regulations for a myriad of vendors, the cumbersomeness and the difficulty of enforcement practices and prerequisite enforcement measures imposed on our police officers, all combine to result in a lose-lose situation. Vendors are subject to inconsistent, conflicting applications of the current law, and as a result, unfair harassment and loss of their goods. Communities are subject to unacceptable, excessive congestion on sidewalks where people live. Just the other day, a young woman who cares for her sister in a wheelchair, who could not be here today due to medical reasons, told me that she avoids sidewalks in her own neighborhood because there is no way for her to push her sister in the wheelchair down those sidewalks because of the excessive congestion. This is a repeated phenomenon throughout many of the streets I represent, and anyone who denies that a problem exists denies reality. And anyone who claims that the answer is simple enforcement of the current law ignores the realities of the difficulty of the current law. And there's a reason why for 10 years and longer the laws have not been enforced. This is an important hearing and an important discussion in order to come up with a win-win-win situation. And I welcome constructive input from all sectors, as we always have, but anyone who simply denies the problem is only going to perpetuate the lose-lose situation for art vendors, for non-art vendors, for communities, for people who need to use the sidewalks in all ways. Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. But Mr. Chair, as a result, I have introduced a package of, it's actually 14 separate bills because of the complexity of the vending code currently required that number. As part of that package, there's been a lot of misinformation that has been disseminated, and people are victimized by intentional or unintentional misinformation. We have in the package introduced clear measures, first and foremost, to preserve the special protections to our veteran vendors and our disabled veteran vendors, most of which are required by state law in any event, but our package preserves and enhances those protections. And secondly, we have affirmed and sustained and in fact even enhanced opportunities for those who are vending goods protected by the First Amendment, including art vendors. My record in the arts and First Amendment is second to none, despite any misinformation that has been spread. The facts speak for themselves, and the facts of the bills are that, in fact, we will enhance and preserve protections to First Amendment vendors who are currently subject to unfair harassment because of the complexity and the contrary interpretation of the law. Finally, Mr. Chair, and Councilmember Barron, I share with you the sentiments over the outdated cap on the number of vendors, and that is what also led me to introduce a bill that would also increase the number. We can work with your approach. I believe we can work with your approach if we come up with the right balance for open space and passable safe sidewalks, including one of the provisions I have introduced that would require basic signage on streets so the information and the regulations are clear to all. I look forward. The other point of clarification, Mr. Chair, I need to make with respect to 830, the description, again, because of the complexity, is slightly off, where it says the bill is in relation to limitations in congested areas. We are talking about the narrowest of sidewalks, where, for instance, Spring Street and Prince Street. This has nothing to do with art vendors. It has nothing to do with any kind of vendor. It has to do with the fact that due to obstructions combined with vending, those sidewalks are dangerous and not passable. And in fact, the proposals we have put in place would preserve the veterans' rights and for the first time codify First Amendment vendor rights, including art vendor rights, on those sidewalks so that they're not dependent on a veteran presence. So that would expand art vending opportunities beyond what you currently have, but within the context of reasonable open space and safe, passable sidewalks. I look forward to the discussion. I've concluded my remarks other than to say that due to a conflict of two other hearings, or a hearing and a negotiation on the sanitation garage and the Lower East Side rezoning, I will need to go in and out of this and the other hearings and meetings, but I will be represented throughout by our staff, and I will follow up, and I look forward to, at long last, getting the job done. Thank you very much.